Good evening and welcome to Sky Night. The waxing crescent moon is visible a slim crescent low in the west just after sunset. It shines with 29% illumination while located in Virgo. Please enable captions in your preferred language to see local observing cities and times. Join us for a guided tour of tonight's whole sky. We begin the evening with Venus halfway up the southern sky and the moon near Spica halfway up the southern sky, while Vega sits almost straight overhead and Altair is high in the southern sky, with the Dumbbell Nebula also high in the southern sky. As the night deepens, the Cocoon Nebula rises almost straight overhead. The southern Delta Aquariids meteors appear halfway up the southern sky, and Mars emerges near the eastern horizon. Toward morning, the Andromeda Galaxy is almost straight overhead, Saturn is halfway up the southern sky, the double cluster is high in the northern sky, Polaris is high in the northern sky, Algol is almost straight overhead, and the Perseids meteors are high in the northern sky. Venus is the dazzling silver-white point halfway up the southern sky. It is the second brightest object in the heavens, outshining every star around it. The last good view before the planet sets comes at about 8:05 in the evening in Los Angeles, 8:20 in the evening in New York, and 9 in the evening in London. Venus is the brightest natural object in the night sky after the moon, so dazzling that it can cast faint shadows in truly dark places and is the single most common source of UFO reports. Look halfway up the southern sky to see the waxing moon passing close to the bright star Spica. They appear within about 2.5 degrees of each other tonight. The last good view before they set comes at about 8:05 in the evening in Los Angeles, 8:20 in the evening in New York, and 9 in the evening in London. Vega sits almost straight overhead as the blue-white corner of the summer triangle. You can find it easily as the very bright star dominating the zenith. This star reaches its highest point around 9:50 in the evening in Los Angeles, New York, and London, remaining above the horizon all night in the latter. The name Vega derives from an Arabic expression describing a swooping or diving eagle. It refers to the way the ancient Arabs perceived the pattern of stars in the constellation Lyra. Altair is the bright heart of Aquila, located high in the southern sky. It forms the low corner of the summer triangle and is flanked by 2 fainter stars. In Los Angeles, New York, and London, this star culminates around 11 in the evening. Modern astronomers point out that the real distance between Altair and Vega, about 14-15 light years, makes the physical meeting of the lovers from the legend completely impossible. This is often cited as an example of poetic license in astronomical folklore. The Dumbbell Nebula is a fat hourglass of glowing gas visible in Vulpecula. Sweep binoculars or a telescope just north of the little arrow of Sagitta in the Milky Way below Cygnus. Around 11:10 in the evening, the nebula reaches its greatest altitude in Los Angeles, New York, and London. At the heart of the Dumbbell Nebula lies an extraordinarily hot white dwarf, blazing at about 85,000 degrees and believed to be one of the largest white dwarfs known. The Cocoon Nebula is this night's featured deep sky object, a bright knot at the end of a dark dust lane in Cygnus. Track east from Deneb along the Milky Way to the edge of the constellation to find the striking black trail leading up to it. The nebula culminates around 1:05 in the morning in Los Angeles, New York, and London, staying above the horizon all night in the last. In the eyepiece, it is a faint round haze that most people give up on, while in photographs it is one of the most striking fields in Cygnus. In catalogs it is listed as IC 5146. The southern Delta Aquariids meteors are active tonight, though fading after their peak. Look halfway up the southern sky and let your eyes wander a bit off the radiant in Aquarius for the longest trails. In Los Angeles, New York, and London, the radiant reaches its highest point around 1:50 in the morning. Mars is rising near the eastern horizon as an orange-red point in Gemini. It is visible to the naked eye, appearing as a steady glow among the stars. Mars rises at 1:18 in the morning in London, 1:57 in the morning in New York, and 2:14 in the morning in Los Angeles. H.G. Wells's 1897 novel, The War of the Worlds, one of the first and most influential alien invasion stories, imagined Martians launching an attack on Earth, cementing Mars as science fiction's go-to source of invaders for over a century. We now turn our attention to the crossings of Phobos and Deimos across the disk of Mars. Phobos makes its first crossing across the apparent disk of Mars, lasting 52 minutes. This transit takes place in Los Angeles between 9:06 in the morning and 9:58 in the morning, in New York between 12:06 in the afternoon and 12:58 in the afternoon, and in London between 5:06 in the afternoon and 5:58 in the afternoon, with Mars standing above the horizon in each of these locations. The next Phobos crossing across the apparent disk of Mars lasts 53 minutes. In Los Angeles, New York, and London, Mars is below the horizon. Deimos makes its first crossing across the apparent disk of Mars, lasting 69 minutes. This event occurs in New York between 1:38 in the morning and 2:47 in the morning, and in London between 6:38 in the morning and 7:47 in the morning, with Mars standing above the horizon in both cities. The next Phobos crossing across the apparent disk of Mars lasts 53 minutes. This transit happens in New York between 3:24 in the morning and 4:17 in the morning, and in London between 8:24 in the morning and 9:17 in the morning, with Mars standing above the horizon in these locations, while in Los Angeles, Mars is below the horizon. The Andromeda Galaxy is a pale, neighboring spiral galaxy visible to the naked eye. Hop from the corner of the Great Square of Pegasus along two stars to find a faint oval smudge almost straight overhead. The galaxy culminates around 3:55 in the morning in Los Angeles, New York, and London, remaining above the horizon all night in the last. Andromeda rotates once every 250 million years, and it possesses a distinctive spiral structure with prominent dust lanes that obscure the central regions. Saturn is a steady, unblinking golden point halfway up the southern sky in Pisces. It is fainter than Jupiter, but its calm yellow glow gives it away. In Los Angeles, New York, and London, the planet reaches its greatest altitude around 4:05 in the morning. In the Star Trek universe, the starship USS Titan, first commanded by William Riker and later flagship of the show, Star Trek, Picard, is named after Saturn's largest moon, Titan. The double cluster is a pair of rich star cities set beside the Milky Way in Perseus. Look for a hazy patch between Perseus and the W of Cassiopeia, best seen through binoculars. The cluster reaches its highest point around 5:05 in the morning in London and 5:30 in the morning in Los Angeles and New York, and it never sets to night in any of the three. The double cluster was recorded more than 2,000 years ago, appearing in the star catalogue of the Greek astronomer Hipparchus around 130 BC. Polaris is one of the 50 brightest stars, located high in the northern sky. Follow the pointer stars of the Big Dipper to find the brightest point of Ursa Minor. Polaris culminates at 5:05 in the morning in London and 5:35 in the morning in Los Angeles and New York, and it never sets to night in any of the three. Polaris is actually a three-star system. The primary component is a yellow supergiant of spectral type F7, around which two smaller companion stars orbit. Algol is an eclipsing star in Perseus that visibly dims and brightens every couple of nights. Look almost straight overhead below the W of Cassiopeia, extended toward Perseus. This star reaches its highest point around 5:05 in the morning in London and 5:40 in the morning in Los Angeles and New York, and from London, it never sets to night. About 7.3 million years ago, Algol swept within roughly 9.8 light-years of the Sun, close enough that it would have blazed at about magnitude -2.5, outshining Sirius as the brightest star in Earth's night sky. The Perseids meteors are active tonight, 5 days past their peak. Look high in the northern sky and let your eyes wander a bit off the radiant in Perseus for the longest trails. Around 5:40 in the morning, the radiant culminates in Los Angeles and New York, whereas it reaches its highest point at 5:05 in the morning in London, with all remaining above the horizon all night. Join us again for the next nightly sky guide, and may you have clear skies.